everybody. So today I am freeze drying leftover spaghetti. I made a ton of extra spaghetti the other day for this purpose. Whenever I get the opportunity to make something extra, I like to save it and then put it in the freeze dryer. It's just an easier way I've found to save extra food than it is to try to make additional meals to freeze dry. We tend to use the meals, we keep them in storage for in case of emergency. My husband also likes to have them for things like deer hunting or anything where you need an extra meal on the go. They're great for everything. You can freeze dry just about anything. There are certain things you can't, but most things will freeze dry really well. Spaghetti is one of those that everybody really likes it and everybody talks about how good it is. So yeah, today we're gonna freeze dry spaghetti. I am not going to put anything down on my pans. I know some people like to use the little silicone mats. I don't have those, and I know parchment paper is an option too, but honestly I haven't had trouble with anything sticking to the pan too bad. Up to this point it usually comes off really easily and I just wash it afterwards, so I'm not too worried about it. But you do have the option, and there's a lot of different things you can put down on the bottom if needed. I've never actually done spaghetti on the freeze dryer, so it's kind of it's a little bit different. I've done lasagna. The main thing is just getting it to lay flat enough that it'll freeze dry evenly and I won't have any wet spots when I take it out. And this is angel hair, so it's pretty thin. And I personally, you could just lay it across the trays. I like to set out individual servings so that way I know what I'm going to be putting into each Mylar bag at the end. It's easier for me if you just do it separately. But again, it's all about personal choice. It also, I think, freeze dries a little bit faster because there's a little bit more airflow in there. But all your choice. You mainly, when you're looking at your sizing, you want it to be kind of flush with the height of the pan. If it's taller, you run the risk of it bumping into the different trays, inserts on the freeze dryer. So you want to try to make sure it's level. For the sake of this video too, I'd spaghetti and meatballs, but I'm going to put the meatballs by themselves and then I'll divvy them up when I'm actually loading up the Mylar bags at the end. It just seems they're pretty tall, and I think it would be hard to kind of stack them with the spaghetti, and I also think they'll dry more evenly if they are separate. This is a ton of spaghetti, so I don't think it's all gonna fit, but we're gonna do our best and we're gonna see how much we can get on here, and I'll see how long it takes to do the spaghetti. I have a feeling it won't take very long. I mean, we'll see. The meatballs may take a little bit longer. When I first started freeze drying, I would just load the trays, and I think they just got super full, and it was hard at the end to kind of figure it out. I mean, it'll shrink up a little bit once it's dried, but then for me it's so much easier. Like, I can pick up a disc of spaghetti and throw it in the Mylar bag, and it helps me keep track of the portions better than if they're giant and I have to try to break them. And once things get done in the freeze dryer, they tend to get really crumbly and kind of super breakable, I guess is the better word for it. So once you peel something up, you run the risk of kind of making it like spaghetti powder, and I don't think anybody wants that. We've recently too gotten into, kind of started getting into the prepping mindset. I know, I mean, you think prepper and you think, oh, like we've gone crazy, but not really. I mean, it's more, we live in the South, we get lots of storms, we've had it where, you know, tornadoes hit nearby and power's out, and you know, if you are in need of food that doesn't need to be refrigerated, that doesn't need to be, honestly, it doesn't need to be heated up necessarily. It's just good to have things like this on standby in case of an emergency, whether you know, it's something major or it's just something like a weather event that you're prepping for. I think there's so many options and so many different things that you can make that, and you can put in the freeze dryer, that it makes it's kind of fun to play around with it to see what turns out the best. Chili is a popular one for obvious reasons. I think it's super easy to make, it's easy to reheat, it still tastes really good when it's reheated. And that's the best part too about freeze drying, is that everything that you put in the freeze dryer, when it comes out, it's gonna taste the same. They keep 99% of the nutritional value as when they're cooked as soon as you rehydrate with water. So that is huge. So when you're dehydrating, when you're canning, when you're always either having to add something or take away something or cook something, and that takes away a lot of the nutrition that comes from these meals that you're eating and you're prepping. And for us, the freeze dryer just made the most sense. It was an investment. I mean, they're not cheap, but I would say we've already gotten our return on it, and we've had it for, let's see, about a year, like a year and a few months now. And we've made so many different things. We've even things like candy or snacks for my kids, or one of my favorite things to make is just, I go to Sam's Club and I buy the giant container of spinach, and I'll put the one container fits on all these trays. And then once it's done in the freeze dryer, I take it out and I crumble it up into just a fine spinach powder. And I add it to things like spaghetti, or add it to smoothies, or add it to even macaroni and cheese. I mean, anything that my kids like, I'll throw in a little bit of spinach powder. And it adds so much nutrition to their diets, but they hardly even know it's there. And you can do that with things other than spinach too. I mean, you could put other vegetables. I know some people do carrots, and same idea. So you can either keep them whole, or you grind things up into a powder and add it to things later on. So whether you want to make your own seasonings, or if you just want to add nutrition to your diet, even if you as an adult don't like certain things, it's really easy to kind of hide it from yourself in some of these dishes. So we've had a lot of fun with it since we got it. I could do more with it, and I think summertime has slowed down a little because it's just so hot outside, and it's just, to me, it is more fun to freeze dry when it's cold outside. So I'm leaving a little bit of room at the end of each one of these trays because that's where I'm going to put these meatballs. Some of the meatballs have kind of snuck in here, but I'm gonna put them at the end. And I'm gonna put them in the bags together at the end anyway, but it just, for me, it'll work a little bit better to freeze dry with them separate. Like I said, I made way too much, and that's okay. Might have it as a leftover dinner too. If you're interested in freeze drying, there are so many resources online. There's cookbooks, there's YouTube videos like this one. There's so many different things, and if you're interested in buying it, no pressure, but if you want that, it's in the description of the video. I can't recommend it enough. It's been a serious game changer. I mean, you look at a Bass Pro or Cabela's or Shields or Dick's Sporting Goods, anywhere where they sell those freeze-dried meals, each one of those for, a good meal, and it's not even a ton of food. I'm putting way more food, I think, in my meals than they have in theirs, and each one of those, regardless of what it is anywhere from $11 to, I think I saw one that was like $18. And if you're doing, say they were $12 a piece, but I'm doing 10 meals, that's $120 that I would have had to spend at the store. And I think to make all this pasta and even the meatballs and everything, it cost me $20 tops. And that's just because of the meatballs. I mean, pasta's cheap, sauce can be cheap. Whatever you want to put into it, it doesn't have to be anything expensive. But in the long run, if you're trying to prep, or you're trying to use it for on-the-go meals, you're trying to build up your food preservation, stash, anything that you're wanting to do with it, there's so many options. And I think it's worth the investment. I know they run sales all the time, and if for some reason there's a sale, I'll include the other link too just in the main page. So if they're having a big sale, you get the discount on top of that. So just check it out if you're interested, if you're still looking. I think it's been great. I know you get mixed reviews on just about any product that you buy anymore. Everybody has their own opinion, but my opinion is that this thing has been great. And if you like seeing stuff like this, if you like freeze-dried content, you want to see like what I make, you want to see different ideas. This one is obviously a pretty basic idea of what to put in here, and there's about a million other things I could put in here too. But if it's stuff you like, let me know. I'm happy to do more freeze-dry videos. I'm sure I will in the future. I do it too often not to take videos of it, but for now, I'm just gonna showing you guys how we save some of our food. I made the mistake of not counting them before I put them in here, so I'm pulling all the meatballs out, and I'm gonna see roughly how many I have, and then I'll divvy them up with each serving, just so I know I'm kind of putting an even amount in each one. I try to fill the Mylar bag, so sometimes it's a little bit more than, I guess, one serving, but I don't think that's a bad thing. I like to kind of save the space, and I feel like too, if I'm using them in the future, if we ever have to break them open, we have a family of 4, so we would need more than one serving or one meal's worth of food anyway. So that's my thinking behind it. You can always get smaller Mylar bags to freeze dry with, or to save your stuff with. It's up to you. It just is what I have. I think one of my favorite things right now to freeze dry is the candy, which it's not really meant for the long-term food preservation, but I love putting Skittles and Milk Duds and Jolly Ranchers all in here. I think the texture is awesome. My husband's not a huge fan of the freeze-dried candy, but again, it's one of those things that if you're trying to make a little extra money, get into and you want to buy the freeze dryer, but you need a way to justify it. Get into the freeze dry space. I mean, most states have the cottage law rule, so you can actually do the freeze drying out of your home. You don't have to have a commercial space to do it necessarily. Again, check your state regulations. They're all a little bit different, but most states, you can start your own freeze dry business. You can go set up a stand at the farmer's market. You can sell, like, with candy. I know the foods are a little bit different, but candy specifically, it's really easy to kind of have your own little side business, and people love it, and you can charge a decent amount for it, and it's really little time and effort on your part to put it together. You literally just can pour a bag of Skittles on these trays, throw them in the freeze dryer, and then in a few hours you have all this candy. And the candy obviously takes up a little more space than originally when you put it in there, so just an idea. So right now I have, let's see, 6. So I'm not sure how I did that, but somehow I managed to do 6 meatballs per serving, and I think that's plenty. I don't think we're eating that many meatballs more. I'll see if I have a couple more in here, but it's pretty equal right now. Okay, so I'm gonna call it good on the meatballs. I might add a little bit more. Let's see. I always like to look, I know it's silly, but I like to get down to this level, and I like to look to make sure it's not coming up over the lip of the trays or on the sides, because you don't want it to get your freeze dryer super messy. I mean, spaghetti is kind of a messy thing, so the least messy you could be, the better. And each one of these piles looks pretty even. Again, they don't have to be perfect. I'm not weighing them. I know it's bad, but I'm not weighing them. I think it's been pretty easy to tell, like, when reconstituting with water, that oh, this needs a little bit more water. Oh, this doesn't. A lot of people, you put them on a scale before you put them in the freeze dryer. You look at their weight, maybe in ounces or grams or however you want to weigh them. And then once they're done and you actually put them in the bag, then you can reconstitute with that amount of water that's lost. Again, I don't do that. I haven't found the need for it. I think it's one of those things that you kind of play around with it. It's not hard to figure out how much water it needs. If it needs a little more water, you add a little more water. But again, everybody has their own process. I don't do that. Because I have different piles of different sizes and different. I'm not going to try to do the math to figure out what should go where and how much water you need in each bag. Okay, I think that looks pretty good. So next I will show you my settings for this. Again, keeping it simple. The factory settings on the freeze dryer will work for just about anything. I have found that it's pretty good. The only thing you change is when you do candy, but for spaghetti, I'm literally just gonna turn it on. I'm gonna hit start, and I will probably add a little bit of extra dry time, but I'll explain that in just a minute. The screen when you start up your freeze dryer, I will probably go here and I always add a little extra dry time because then I'm there when it's ready to come out. Likely this will be done tomorrow sometime, so I will have quite a bit of time there, but I always add a lot. You don't have to add this much. You don't have to add any really, but it also doesn't hurt. You can, I don't know if there is necessarily too much extra dry time to an extent, but this is how I like to do it. And again, just the standard settings on here. And you hit save, and then we'll hit start, and we'll be ready to load up our freeze dryer. Okay, so everything's loaded. I'm gonna hit start and I'll see you back tomorrow sometime. And we are back. We have all of the spaghetti that is completely freeze dried. It is crunchy. It's ready to go into the Mylar bags that I have already labeled. I put the date and what they are on them. And then I also have these oxygen absorbers that we will add after I put all the spaghetti into their bags. It took about 20 hours from start to finish when it started drying. The freeze time, I think it took about 7 or 8 hours, but the meatballs are what took the longest. The pasta was really quick, but the meatballs took a while, and I had to keep breaking them open to see if they were done or not. So basically for this process, like I said earlier, all of the spaghetti has been divvied out into individual sizes, and then in each bag I'll add about 6 meatballs, which should be plenty. And then for the time being, I'm going to stack them right here because I like to do the oxygen absorbers right at the end, right before I put it and I seal up the Mylar bags. The spaghetti is pretty fragile, so it's breaking apart a little bit, but at the end I'll go through and anything that's left I'll kind of just add whatever bag has some room. Trying to not make a mess is probably the hardest part. Just because it is so fragile, it takes a little bit of effort to get them in the bags, and I probably could have done a little bit less spaghetti and it would have fit a little bit better, but I like to get as much as I can when I'm doing it, just so that way, you know, it feels like it's worth all of the time and energy to do this. My little helpers like to help with this too. For the sake of this, it's just me, but usually, you know, they like to eat the snacks right off the tray. It's been awesome when we're doing things like fruit and different snacks that we're making. It's easy for them to grab and go, and I feel like when you're freeze drying strawberries or freeze drying any kind of berries or bananas or carrots, I mean, they're more of a snack. They feel more like a snack. The kids like them a little more because, you know, They taste a little bit more sweet and tart once you pull all the liquid out of them. So it's good for everybody. It's good nutrition for them, snack-wise, and it's a really yummy snack too. So they feel like they're getting a treat, and I feel like they're getting the nutrition that they need. Freeze-dried things, the texture definitely changes when you cook them. So when you pull them out, everything is really dry, really brittle. I mean, that's a good thing. That's how you know that they're done. But it also makes it a little bit more challenging not to make, spaghetti powder or accidentally powdering or getting little tiny pieces of something that wouldn't necessarily be good as little tiny pieces. But for spaghetti, it's not as big of a deal because small noodles still taste like noodles. I think next I want to make some breakfast foods. I want to use some of our eggs from the chickens and maybe do some pancakes and just try to mix it up a little bit. It's fun getting all these big meals in there, but I also think breakfast is good too, and it's something that we have on hand. Okay, we are almost done. Okay, so now I'm going to just add a little bit of the crumbs across the board for the bags that could use maybe a little bit more. I'm going to try one. It tastes just like spaghetti. It's kind of a weird thing, but it's good. And I'm just so thankful that we're able to do stuff like this and save our food and experiment with different ideas, different recipes. I think it'd be fun to do like an Alfredo. I know some people talk against doing things with dairy. I don't know. I kind of have mixed feelings on it. I think all of them have potential. Okay, let me wash my hands and then I'm going to seal up these bags. Okay, so I just opened up this pack of oxygen absorbers. It works out nicely because there are 10 in a pack. So every time I do this, I wait until the last minute, and then that happens. So I wait until the last minute to add these in, and I usually add them kind of as I'm sealing them. So I put that in there, nice and low, and then all you want to do, you just want to make sure you get kind of as much air out of there as possible from the get-go. And then Harvest Right, the freeze dryers, they come with this awesome bag sealer. So you just seal them right below or right above where the cut lines are, and then you just push down for a few seconds. And just like that, completely sealed, and those oxygen absorbers will start to work. I usually leave them out on the counter just to make sure that the bags stick to it. You can definitely see when the air kind of sucks in on them. And then once they are all done, I take them and I have tubs that I keep them in. So that way they're easy for us to get to, easiest for us to grab in an emergency situation. But yeah, so I will do this for all 10 and then we will recap right at the end.